Good evening or good day. I'm preparing this in the evening before the Maundy Thursday celebration. And we're at the portion of preparations and gathering all the ingredients where we have the lamb. This is a boneless lamb, available at most supermarkets. Try to find local if you can. You'll find the meat a little more robust. It does require a little bit of seasoning, and one of the things that I do in the preparation of this lamb is I try to create a Mediterranean style to it, something that would be familiar to the palate of those who would have received their lamb with the blessing of the temple all those years ago. Some of the ingredients are more modernized, and our accessibility to certain ingredients does cause us to do that, but this would be, at least on the palate, a familiar kind of meal. We go with as many kosher ingredients as possible. A kosher salt is always encouraged, and salt is a major ingredient in any kind of marinade you're preparing. The one thing I really love about this marinade is that it is simple, and it goes right into the cook. You don't have to drain it off. You don't have to rinse it off, so it goes straight into the cook afterwards. Rinsing a marinade should only be done with really penetrating meats anyway, where the meat is very porous, so that you don't get something that overwhelms the flavor of the meat. In the case of the lamb, you want something that is going to soak into the fat, soak into the fatty tissue, and as that renders in the cook, you're going to get this great spread of flavor, but really the embellishment and the encouragement of the natural, wonderful flavors that are found in a meat so rich as lamb. The other thing I'm going to say about lamb is the preference most of the time is bone in when it comes to the preparation of this dish. Now, I happen to have a boneless, what was available, and what was available as fresh. And that was very important to me as well. If I could get fresh or nearly fresh or fresh butcher, I'm going for a bone in lamb. It's a longer cook. It's a substantially longer cook. So one of the things you want to do with a boneless lamb is whatever the cook time is to watch it carefully. It doesn't mean check it check it too often, then your meat will dry out. But to roll back your first check time, instead of say to 3 hours, take a whole hour off of that. Also, you want to reduce your cook time from other meats that you might cook, like cook a lamb more slowly. Let the flavors mingle. Now, let's get to the actual preparation of this marinade. Simple. Okay, you lay out your lamb. I like when it comes with this mesh. Oh, the mesh is wonderful because I can pack some flavors right close to the meat, hold it tight, and even though I'm going to put this in a Ziploc eventually, that mesh really keeps things nice together. I take it off for the cook, but while it's marinating, things like the parsley and the garlic and especially the parsley is really close together. If you wanted to add something besides the parsley and another herb that you like, please feel free. Rosemary goes very well with this. I do have some fresh rosemary that I'm going to clip and add to this as well. Not a lot. This doesn't require a lot, and rosemary actually isn't in my usual recipe for this, but I had a pinch because it's so good. All right, let's get to the preparation. So first we're going to peel back the mesh and just peel it back. And most of these are very elastic now. If you have one of the more cotton ones, you might have to clip a couple of the but don't take it completely off. There you go. Get it back. Get it back, get it back, get it back. And what you're going to find is one side, where they took the bone out, in the case of this one, is more open. If you're dealing with a bone-in lamb, make a couple of little cuts throughout the lamb itself so you can insert whole cloves of garlic, but because this is a boneless, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use already diced garlic, and that's going to spread the flavor just a little bit wider. But with the bone in, you should make little insertions, usually with a paring knife, and you can put the cloves, the whole cloves, right into the lamb. So I'll give my hands a quick rinse as I go to the next ingredient. And that next ingredient is the garlic. So I'm a little lazy this evening, some pre-diced garlic. And I'm going to just take a spoonful of that pre-diced garlic, and I'm just going to in and just spread it around so it's all over the place on this nice little pocket that's already been prepared. And while I'm at it, I have some fresh parsley, and I don't do anything to this parsley. Well, I rinsed it before we did this. And I'm just going to stuff that in that little hole as well. Stuff that right in there. All right. And there we go. And that is going to be just a nice little pocket of soaking up some flavor, and you'll be amazed at just how much flavor will come out of that parsley, and the garlic's obvious, but will come out of that parsley and into the rest of the dish. So the next thing I want to do in a Ziploc bag is I want to put some cracked pepper. Use fresh ground pepper if you have it. If you don't, pre-ground pepper is just fine. All through. Put some in that little pocket you've just made. Terrific. Now, taking some of the parsley. This is why I get a couple of bunches of parsley for the meal preparation. One is for the food that's cooked, and one is for actually using in the Seder meal. And if you don't have a liturgy, I'm going to put a link up in the midst of all of this so that you can follow the recipes and the liturgy that we're using for our Seder meal. And that will be connected to the page that's associated with my personal page that this is going up on. But you'll be able to access this recipe. It's a little harder to put these meshes back on. Try to keep everything in there. And just get that mesh back over the meat for the marinade. And it's a bother, so I'm not going to do it. I'd have to tear it all up and redo it. But we're going to do this just as simply. All right. We're going to put that over. A little bit more pepper. A little bit more pepper. Keep washing your hands. One of the things about cooking kosher, and I won't say that this is absolutely kosher. I know I'm on the edge of a few rules, but do try to keep things clean, and that's the general idea anyway. Keep things clean and safe in your cooking. And then you get out your salt, and you want to be generous with your salt. One of the things about when we actually put this meal into the roaster is that this salt was going to drain off into the pan underneath. A little bit, of course, will get into the pan, and that's fine. But you want a nice coarse salt going into the marinade. And say be generous. I'm going to use probably all together, if you want to pre-measure it, I'm probably going to be using about 1.5 tablespoons. And on a coarse salt like this, that goes a long, long way. Just put a little bit in the bag. And just roll your meat. Oh, it's just not a ton, but 1 tablespoon. And for a large piece of meat, I mean, this is a fairly large roast, and it's really starting to look pretty, but pretty is not all what we're going for. And I just realized sometimes you make mistakes. I want to do something before I put that parsley on top, and that is the paprika. And just be generous. On the fattiest slab. All right, there's the paprika, and I've got a little tree of rosemary off to the side, and just 2 floret sprigs. Just put that on the top. Put the parsley on top of that. All right. And I pretend like this Ziploc bag is a little roaster, except we're going to cook with chemicals in this. And a good marinade does give a bit of a cook. It starts the cook chemically. So you're going to be adding now a little bit of lipids, so a good olive oil, very appropriate for this type of lamb. And lamb and olive oil go to better together than lamb and mint jelly. So you want to have some olive oil in any cook of lamb. It just brings out the best flavors. In this one, you can do this a couple of ways. I like to use a lemon juice, but I don't necessarily squeeze a whole lemon. I want to stay away from the temptation to use the zest. The zest overpowers. It's too strong, so I stick with just a lemon juice. Now, if you've got one of those little, those small little lemon-shaped things of juice, a little plastic container, that's great. I happen to have this because one of the drinks that can accompany the meal is a lemonade, so I have that available. We also have grape juice, and I do add that to the marinade as well. So lemon juice, grape juice, and Welch's is great, but any strong Concord, you want to bring that flavor out. And you want to put in, because it's a Ziploc bag, you can cut your amounts way down. For each of these ingredients, it was a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup, and that was in sort of a bowl setting. If you want to do this in a bowl, you're just going to have to add more fluids, but with a Ziploc bag, you can cut your ingredients way down. 2 tablespoons of regular vinegar. Again, this is one of those, this is the acid, and the acid is going to work on that meat, and it's going to begin to break it down. And as it breaks it down, it's going to open up these avenues for the flavor to come in, for that salt to move through it, and for the pepper. And we've put some pepper on the bottom of this, and now I'm going to put a lot of pepper on the top. We're going to seal it off with the pepper. Just terrific. All right. Now, the meal is going to be at late afternoon tomorrow, just around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And so right now it's a little after 10, and I'm starting the marinade. So this is going to marinate until tomorrow, probably to the early afternoon, around 1 o'clock. You want to start, your average leg of lamb will cook from 11 o'clock till 3. And then you want to leave it out to stand for an hour in the roaster. Sometimes you want to wrap it in foil. In the case of this, where it's a boneless, you can start it a little later, so it's an afternoon cook, but it's still at least 3 hours at a low heat. And you're looking at 275 at the highest for a boneless, 275 to start for a bone-in. All right? And the reason for the difference in temperature is this is a more delicate meat, and it will dry out faster. The marinade will keep things together. The other thing I want to suggest is have some celery to put underneath when you roast it. Try to use a roasting pan rather than the foil pans, a proper pan, and wait till you begin to smell it, and you will find a very distinct smell coming from this particular marinated roast. It's going to be a strong flavor. You're gonna sense the citrus. You're gonna sense the juices that are in there. You're gonna hit the hit of vinegar, and then you know the cook is really on. And that'll tell you you've got at least an hour thereabouts left in the cook. Once that's happening, the other thing I'm going to suggest is, yes, go get some mint jelly and have some mint jelly for this. It's a terrific addition. But any type of jam, like a date jam or a fig jam, is also really nice with this as a condiment, and very appropriate as well. Later on, we're going to show you some other dishes that are going to go with this meal, and we're going to try and link this up to the actual presentation of the Seder meal. God bless. Hope your cook goes well. Now put this in the fridge and leave it there overnight and have a good night's sleep. God bless.